Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good evening, everyone. It is Saturday, April the 24th, 2021. It is currently 6:06 p.m. Central Time. And yes, once again, I'm coming to you live from Victory Baptist Church right here in Ovalo, Texas. I'm here in the sanctuary of Victory Baptist Church. It is empty. It's Saturday evening. Typically, I'm not here on a Saturday evening. So this is a special Saturday evening broadcast. And I have one goal in mind this evening: clarification. Yes, the goal tonight is to try to offer some clarification. Now, clarification is defined as the action of making a statement or situation less confused and more comprehensible. That is what I'm going to try to do this evening. I'm going to try to make an action or comments that I made earlier today, or I'm going to try to make a statement and the situation less confused and more comprehensible. I'm going to try to help you comprehend something because I possibly made a mistake earlier today. And instead of just deleting that mistake and moving forward, I leave the mistake there for you to go back and listen to. And then I will have this clarification posted, hopefully to make the situation more comprehensible, to add clarification, to add clarity, and hopefully add some additional thoughts to the entire situation. So let me try to explain. Earlier this morning, I was here at Victory Baptist Church, obviously, and I just finished a live broadcast, and I was getting ready to decide what do I do next, and I got a news notification. And the news notification, let me read to you the headline. Let me open it up right quick. The headline that I received the headline that was in my notification read like this, all right? And again, this was published today, April the 24th, 2021. So this is a brand new news article. And this is a notification I saw. True to its doctrine, conservatives plan for a new church after United Methodism splits over homosexuality debate. Let me read that to you again. True to its doctrine, conservatives plan for a new church after United Methodism splits over homosexuality debate. All right. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, I knew that there was a possible split coming within the United Methodist Church. Some of it was kind of put on hold because of the pandemic. And so in my understanding, there was a meeting that was supposed to happen in August 2021, this year, between August and September of 2021, that would ultimately determine the fate. Well, I come to find out that it's not August 2021. It's going to be held in August 2022. So I was way ahead of reporting on this in that sense that I could have just waited until the meeting occurs and then talk about it then. But I looked at the news report and I thought, you know what? We've talked about it briefly. Let's just turn on the microphone, do a quick live broadcast, tell everyone about it briefly. But my goal, now listen, this is very important. My goal was to just use this story about the coming split within the United Methodist Church to talk about two very important concepts. Concept number one, church and authority. All right. And what I wanted to demonstrate is no matter what denominational structure you have, no matter what local church structure you have, no matter if you say we need elders, we need a pastor, we need a denomination, we need bishops, we need cardinals, no matter what we need a synod, no matter what structure you come up with to governmental structure for your local church or for a denomination, ultimately the church only has authority when the people agree to submit to the church. The second they believe the church is not teaching what they believe is truth, then they can just walk away, start a new denomination, start a new local church, start a house church, whatever. And I just think that that's a reality that, especially in the Protestant world, we have to acknowledge, right? You can say, oh, pastor, you're my spiritual authority, and I'm supposed to submit to you. And as soon as I teach something you disagree with, or something you don't like, or I get the church to do something that you don't think it should do, then what do? Peace out, walk out the door and go find another church or just start another church. If you're in a denomination and you say, hey, the denomination, the leadership, they are our leader. We are to demonstrate godly submission to that authority. And then the minute they do something we don't like, we disagree with, they go against our interpretation of Scripture, then we either start a new denomination, split the church, walk out, whatever the case may be. I wanted to use this news article to just mention that situation to get people thinking about it. I also wanted to use the situation to get people thinking about this. Whenever we talk about a coming apostasy, there's going to be this great falling away. Sometimes I think we have in our mind that there's just going to be all these people who just abandon Christianity, renounce Christianity, walk away from Christianity, and you're just going to have, here's this pure church, and then there's that bad, evil world who now renounces Christianity. And I don't think that's an accurate understanding. So I was trying to offer clarification about the coming apostasy. What you're going to have, yes, you're going to have a large number of people who walk away from Christianity, renounce Christianity. There's no question about that. But at the same time, what you're going to have is a church and churches that claim to be Christian. They're going to have church on their door. They're going to have a cross. They're going to claim to believe in Jesus. They're going to hold up a Bible. But they are going to, in a sense, be an apostate church, a church that has fallen away from historical biblical Christianity. And that's going to make it very confusing, not only for the world, but it's going to be very difficult for you because some of your greatest opposition may not be from the people who've renounced Christianity and moved away from Christianity. It's going to come from those who claim to be Christian, but condemn you. And then when you're trying to find a church, you're going to be like, wait a minute. That church claims to be Christian, but what in the world is that? That church claims to be Christian, but what in the world is that? And that is going to continue to get worse and worse as we move forward. And so I wanted to use this article about what's happening in the Methodist Church to bring those 2 points to the forefront of everyone's mind, to bring it right there to everyone's attention. All right. Number one, we have to consider what authority does a church have? How, when, I know it's easy to say, well, we submit until they start teaching false doctrine or heresy, but you're the one who gets to determine when they teach false doctrine and heresy. So at any time you disagree, then you can just walk away. So in reality, they don't have any authority and you can just walk away. We have to struggle with that concept. And number two, we need to make sure we understand that the coming apostasy doesn't mean the end of churches and the end of professing Christianity. No, it's going to be very prevalent. There's going to be churches, and many of them are going to be really big and filled with people, but they're going to stop adhering to historical biblical Christianity. That's what I wanted to use that news article to get to. The problem is I just kind of used the article to get to those points without maybe necessarily dealing with all the nuances of what's going on inside the Methodist Church. And so I inadvertently may have given a wrong understanding of what's going on. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I completely understand everything that's happening or how it works within the Methodist Church. I've never been a Methodist. I don't know all their structure, all of their rules. But I received an email from someone asking saying, well, wait a minute, I thought it was working this way. And then I was like, oh no, I may have misrepresented the entire situation. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to January of, I think this is January 2020, I believe. Let me look here, see if I can find out for sure. January the 5th, 2020 at 5:12 p.m. January the 5th, 2020, 5:12 p.m., NPR was reporting on the tensions building and rising within the United Methodist Church. So we're going to listen to that. Then we're going to jump up to the article that was released today. No, actually, before we go to the article that was released today, we will go to, let me see what I have here. We'll go to March the 2nd, Texas Independence Day. Also my birthday. So we'll go to March the 2nd, 2021. all right, to Christianity Today, where they talk about this. Then we'll go to the article that was released today, and then we'll go to the email from the listener. And then hopefully when it's all said and done, we've accomplished some kind of clarification. Hopefully we have. And then maybe I can then restate those points that I was trying to make and maybe even add a third. That is the goal. So here's what I did. I saw the article, just kind of briefly mentioned some of the things in the article, and then jumped to my points. And instead, what I should have done is done a more extensive look at the situation, make sure I clearly gave an accurate explanation of what's going on in the I was going to say the Catholic Church and the United Methodist Church. If I said Catholic at any point, I apologize. Within the United Methodist Church, and then try to offer my thoughts of application. I just kind of used the article to get to where I wanted to go, and that was a mistake. And so I apologize if I added any confusion, but I am grateful that we have listeners who contact me. I've said it so many times. You, the listener, you not only kind of determine the direction of where this program is going to go, what we cover, but so many times when you email me your thoughts are in many cases far better than anything I've offered. You offer more clarification. You offer more insight. You add more layers to it. And I constantly try to throw things out there to spark a broader conversation. It doesn't always lead to that, but that's what I'm always trying to do. So thank you to the person who emailed me. I greatly appreciate it. I apologize if I've misrepresented this situation, but now we're going to take it apart and see if we can offer any clarification. So let's go back to NPR, January of this year, it's 2021. What did I say? Did I say January 2020 or 2021? This is January the 5th, 2020. So last year, January of last year, we're going to go back to then. Then we'll move to this year, 2 articles from this year, and then we'll look at the listener email and see if it all makes sense in the end. All right? So do we have that? All right. And again, we're talking about the United Methodist Church. For some reason, I'm thinking I said Catholic Church, and I don't know why. The United Methodist Church. There is problems building in the United Methodist Church that it appears it's going to lead to a split. All right. So are we clear? I hope we are. Now, it would be sad that when I'm done with this, in an attempt to add clarification, I actually caused more confusion. That would be very disappointing and very frustrating. But are you ready? On this Saturday evening, we're going to listen to a clip from NPR. As always, if you're listening to me live, feel free to jump in at any point in time, ask a question, offer clarification to my lack of clarification, just any thoughts or questions. And to do that, you're using the Spreaker app. Just hit the little chat icon and feel free to participate. So are you ready? On this Saturday evening, while I'm here, I wanted to do other things, but clarification is more important than anything else. So here we go.
We're going to spend the next part of the program digging into some recent developments that speak to the deep connection between faith and other important beliefs, including political views in this country. In a minute, we're going to hear more about how President Trump is mobilizing evangelicals ahead of the 2020 election. But first, we want to talk about tensions in the Methodist Church over LGBTQ inclusion. On Friday, leaders of the United Methodist Church, one of the country's largest mainline Protestant denominations, announced plans to split over differences of opinion on same-sex marriage and LGBTQ clergy. A formal vote on the split will take place in May, but we wanted to get more perspective, so we've called on Reverend Ginger Gaines-Sorelli. She is the senior pastor of Foundry United Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. It's a congregation that's embraced LGBT inclusion for decades now. Reverend Gaines-Sorelli, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
So can you...
Now let's just stop right here. All right. So you have the United Methodist Church. Now, supposedly, from my understanding, at least on paper, they should not be embracing LGBTQ inclusion. They should not be doing that according to paper. But yet you've got those congregations that are. So then what's the point of having a denominational structure if churches can just do whatever they want and embrace whatever they want, even if it goes against what you have on paper? What's even the point? And then again, if you try to say, no, we're not going to put up with that, then they just break away. Then again, what's the point of the structure? Like the structure, the authority there, it just comes back to the whole authority question. All right. So here's this Methodist pastor. Now, please note, female. They've embraced LGBTQ ideology and ideas, and they've done it, I think they said, for decades. All right. So, but they're still a Methodist church. Well, then what's the point of the structure? Does the structure even mean anything? Sometimes I just think we do a lot of things claiming that we're doing something. In reality, it's just it's all shadow without substance. It's all just a show. But let's see where this conversation leads us.
Just remind us of what brought this to a head. I mean, the fact is, in some parts of the country, there are already LGBTQ clergy, and some ministers performed same-sex marriages, others didn't. But then there are also individual ministers who are being sanctioned and even defrocked for doing the same thing. I mean, so what was the status quo, and what brought this all to a head?
Well, you're right. For some years now, there have been persons within the United Methodist Church, clergy, and lay people who have been pushing back against the official position of the United Methodist Church, which has been exclusionary to LGBTQ people. Our official policy has been that LGBTQ persons will not be ordained, that we will not officiate at same-gender weddings. And in the last number of years, many folks have made a decision to intentionally break the rule, to do what they felt their conscience was calling them to do and that the gospel was calling them to do.
Now stop right here. All right. I just want you to see this because this goes perfectly with the point I tried to make earlier this morning and the point I've already tried to make in this episode. See, the church had a policy and they decided just to break the policy because they felt it was going against their conscience and, please note, going against the gospel. See, that's the way it works and with the whole idea of authority within the Protestant Christian world is so weird the way it works. Okay, the pastor has the authority, the church has the authority, but as soon as you go against what we think the gospel says, well, then you're wrong, we're right, and then we're just going to do what we want, and if it will either just violate the rule or we'll just break away and start our own church. So then the only authority a church has is the authority that the people allows it to have for any length of time. It does not have, in Protestant theology, I want you to really think about this. In Protestant theology, the pastor of the church truly has no authority. It's the only authority it has is the authority the people allow it to have for only as long as they allow them to have it. In other words, they don't truly have any intrinsic authority or power from God. They do not. The people can go along with it, and as soon as the people think they go against Scripture, then they can just disobey. They can just walk away. They don't have to follow it. So here you have the Methodist Church with this entire denominational governmental structure, right? Supposedly it's there because you can't have independent churches just running around doing whatever they want. No, even within denominations, you have churches doing whatever they want, okay? Because it's just crazy the way it works. You see this in the Southern Baptists all the time. You have Southern Baptist churches doing whatever they want. Okay, or they just break away and go start something else. So you had in the United Methodist Church, churches who were not following the church's policy and teaching in regards to LGBTQ, in regards to qualifications for clergy. So some churches just broke away and did what they still were part of the United Methodist Church, but just did what they wanted to do. Demonstrating that who ultimately had the authority? The individual, not the denomination, not the church. Individuals have the authority. All right. And again, we could trace this back in church history to what happened in the Protestant Reformation. These are the unintended consequences. The church lost the authority. Luther would have claimed the Bible is the authority, but ultimately it becomes the individual is the authority. And if the individual says that's not what the gospel teaches, then guess what? Then the gospel doesn't teach it, and they can do whatever they want. And this is just maddening to me. It's so frustrating to me, but I don't think I've never felt that Christians really struggle with this concept. But here you have it being played out in real time inside the United Methodist Church. All right, let's continue.
Which is to fully include all people and to support them in their callings to ministry. In 2016, there came a point of impasse where the General Conference asked for something different to happen. That led to a special General Conference in 2019, February of 2019, in which we were given the responsibility as elected delegates, I was one of those present, to try to find a way forward that would keep the church together but allow us to minister according to our conscience.
So it's my understanding that at this conference where the idea was to try to resolve this, in fact, the vote went in a completely different direction rather than sort of formalizing this arrangement, this kind of informal arrangement where individual conferences followed their own conscience. The vote was to take a much more traditionalist approach and sanction heavily clergy who perform same-gender weddings. And so what would have been, I mean, I have to ask, what was the reaction to this vote?
People felt, hurt, rage, and just deep disappointment. We had a moment in 2019 where the church could have done something really different from so many other mainline denominations. We could have found a way to stay together in the midst of our differences and model something that the country, I think, really needs right now, is to see faith community who's able and willing to find a way to remain in relationship even in the midst of deep disagreement.
So what made this the right decision?
It allows the United Methodist Church to remain the United Methodist Church, but creates a way for those traditionalist folks, more conservative persons within the United Methodist Church that wish to form their own denomination. And this protocol creates a very clear way for that to happen.
Can I ask, how do you feel?
My heart has been broken for years now as we have been in this struggle, and I have to say that 2019's General Conference was particularly painful for me personally. I had worked hard, founder United Methodist Church, and so many other partners had worked very, very hard to try to find a way for us to do something that felt like we could stay together as a family, even in the midst of such painful disagreement. So in this moment, I feel both that same pain because we've gotten to this point, but I'm also feeling hopeful because I've begun to come around to a place of resolve,
That was the Reverend Ginger Gaines-Sorelli. She's the senior pastor of Foundry United Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. Reverend Gaines-Sorelli, Pastor Ginger, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, now that wasn't super helpful. It gave us some idea. So there was a lot of fighting going on. Then it sounds like in 2019, they were like, no, we're going to go a more conservative approach. And they also have come to some kind of idea. Now, this one is weird, really hard for me to understand. You remain the United Methodist Church, but then those who are more traditional can go start their own denomination, but I guess it's still a part of the United Methodist Church. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what. So now you're one church with 5 denominations under one church, because we saw earlier today that there's a progressive group that's breaking away as well. So I don't know, you're going to have the United Methodist, I guess the moderate, United Methodist traditionalist conservative, United Methodist progressive, but you're still the United Methodist Church. I don't even know what that even entails or what that means, because then as a denomination, are you taking any stand for truth? Like, why would you even want to be a part of a denomination that would allow for that such divergent ways of thinking and belief to somehow be united all together within one church? That makes no sense. The church either takes a stand or it doesn't take a stand. This is just trying to accommodate, well, whatever you believe, you can be a United Methodist. You just create your own denomination within the United Methodist Church. Now, that audio clip said that they were going to have a meeting in May, but that was 2020, and it did not happen because of COVID. I thought it was going to happen in 2021, but it appears it's been pushed back to 2022, where they're ultimately going to have this meeting. But my understanding is that even if the United Methodist Church says, you know what, we're not going to allow for this like separate denomination within the United Methodist Church, it sounds like that if they deny that, the traditionalists, the conservatives, are still going to break away and start their own denomination. So the whole thing is so convoluted that it's crazy. Let's consider some of the reports. All right. Here is from Christianity Today. This is March of this year. Conservative United Methodists plan breakaway denomination. The new Global Methodist Church will leave the United Methodist Church regardless of the General Conference decision, which has been delayed until 2022. So the conservatives are leaving no matter what. No matter if they find some weird idea that, hey, you start your own denomination, but you're still a part of the Methodist denomination. You're still a part of the United Methodist Church. Again, it makes no sense. But if they say, nope, we're not going to allow that, the conservatives are still walking. They're still going away. So we're right back to the original point I made this morning, all right? Maybe I didn't explain the mechanics of all of this very well, but the point that I wanted to make still stands. What is the point of denominational governmental structure claiming that it has some power and authority when you can either just disregard its policies, just do whatever you want because you believe that's not what the gospel teaches, or you can just break away and walk away when they don't do what you think they want them to do. Again, ultimately, the church doesn't have any God-given authority, even if you claim that it does. Because if it had God-given authority, you could not just break away when the minute you disagree. And you say, well, no, I only break away if they teach heresy. But you're the one determining if they teach heresy. So ultimately, the authority is you. You're the ultimate authority. You say, no, Scripture's the ultimate authority. I guarantee you that female pastor that we just listened to, saying that her church has embraced LGBTQ inclusion and that she believes it's a part of the gospel, she would tell you the Bible teaches what she believes. And you would tell her that the Bible doesn't teach what she believes. So ultimately, it's your interpretation of Scripture that's the ultimate authority. We've got to just deal with that problem. And it drives me crazy that the problem exists, but it is very real. Here, let's read a little bit here from Christianity Today. Conservative United Methodists have chosen a name for the denomination they plan to form if a proposal to split the United Methodist Church is successful. The Global Methodist Church. The Global Methodist Church unveiled its new name, logo, and website on Monday, days after the United Methodist Church announced it was once again postponing the May 2020 meeting that was set to consider the proposal to split. That puts the likely launch of the planned denomination at least a year and a half away. Over the past year, the council members and hundreds of people who have informed their work have faithfully and thoughtfully arrived at this point. The Reverend Keith Boyett, president of the Wesleyan Covenant Association and chair of the Transitional Leadership Council that is guiding the creation of the Global Methodist Church, said on a post on the website. Now, just please note, you got all these titles, you got all these positions, you got all of these leadership councils, you got all of this, but everyone's going to ultimately do what they want to do. That's really the end result of all of this. They are happy to share with others a wealth of information about a church they believe will be steeped in the life-giving confessions of the Christian faith. The United Methodist Church's General Conference is a global decision-making body. It's now scheduled to meet August the 29th to September the 6th, 2022 at the Minneapolis Convention Center in Minneapolis. Again, I thought it was going to be in 2021. I don't know where I got that information, but clearly I was wrong there, unless there was some article somewhere that stated it was 2021 and they had it wrong, and then I obviously had it wrong. So the bottom line is I had it wrong. All right, here we go. So delegates are expected to take up a proposal to split the denomination called the Protocol of Reconciliation and Grace Through Separation. So they're going to have reconciliation and grace through separating, and they're going to separate, I guess, Are they still a part of the United Methodist Church, or are they really are no longer a part of it and they're their own denomination? The proposal, negotiated by 16 United Methodist bishops and advocacy group leaders from across theological divides, would create a new conservative traditional Methodist denomination. That's the Global Methodist Church, that would receive $25 million over the next 4 years. Man, church is such big business. I mean, they're going to receive over $25 million over the next 4 years. I'm telling you, sometimes when I start hearing money and dollar signs going on within churches, it really just starts making me sick. That just turns into something I just don't see in the New Testament. I just don't see it. I know people think that those of us who are part of little small independent churches, that we've got it all wrong and we're all whacked and there's no one controlling us and we all just do whatever we want to do. I'm sorry. The same in major denominations, everyone does what they want to do. There's just more political, there's more politics, and there's more money. So they're going to split away, but they're going to get $25 million a year for 4 years. What a plan. What an idea. All right. Individual churches and annual conferences could choose to join the new entity. Otherwise, they'll remain in the existing denomination by default. Calls to split, one of the largest denominations in the United States, have grown since a 2019 special session on the General Conference approved the so-called traditional plan, strengthening its bans on the ordination and marriage of LGBTQ United Methodists. At the time of the 2019 special session, Boyette's WCA made it clear it planned to split from the United Methodist Church if delegates to the special session had not approved traditional plan. So even if they had not approved the traditional plan or this plan of splitting, they still were going to do it. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. They were going to do it anyway. They were going to go their own way. And so it doesn't sound like they were being forced out. It sounds like that they were going to go their own way. On its website, the Global Methodist Church says it similarly would move forward with a split if delegates to the General Conference meeting in 2020 do not approve the proposed protocol. So in 2022, if they don't approve, they're still splitting. They're still going. Or if the support for the protocol wanes in the intervening year and a half. All right. So it sounds like that they're going no matter what. And that seems to be the way it's going. Now, this is also important. All right. Already one group of progressive United Methodists has announced it isn't waiting for a vote to form its own denomination. So there's a progressive group who's not waiting. They're not even waiting. They're just going to go ahead and form their own denomination. So we got the progressives going one way, we got the ultra-conservative going the other way, and we got the moderates in the middle. And what does that even mean for the future of the United Methodist Church? This one is called the Liberation Methodist, and Connexion is how I'm going to pronounce it. It's spelled Connexion, right? Connexion, I don't know. Launched last November with a virtual worship service and introductory presentation. They are called the LMX, which doesn't expect members to leave their current denominations or faiths to join, stresses action over doctrine, and emphasizes the full inclusion of people of all gender expressions, sexual identities, races, ethnicities, mental and physical abilities, sizes, and ages. So you've got the progressive LMX, you've got the conservatives, Global Methodist Church, the GMC. You've got the United Methodist Church. Everyone's going to do what they want. Everyone's going to form the denomination that they want. And of course, once they form their denominations, then trust me, there'll be people within those denominations who don't like the way that denomination works. And then they'll split and the splits never stop because people just do what they want, thinking that they're their own authority. Which literally, the more clarification I can add here, it supports my original idea in the first place. All right. So we got one more article. Then we have the article that was released today. True to its doctrine, conservatives plan for a new church after United Methodism splits over homosexuality debate. The United Methodist Church, the third largest Christian sect in the United States, took another step towards schism over their longstanding debate on LGBT issues when theological conservatives recently unveiled their plan for a new denomination. Now, please note, the conservatives unveiled it, and they're saying that they're leaving no matter what happens. No matter what happens, they're leaving. That seems to be, and the progressives, they've already left. They've already started their own denomination. All right. So just that's the way it's going to work. All right. And then it says, this is going to repeat a lot of what we just read. Known as the Global Methodist Church, GMC, it was the product of the 17-member Transitional Leadership Council, a group of theological conservative United Methodists. The Wesleyan Covenant Association, a conservative United Methodist advocacy group, announced the launching of the GMC on March the 1st, explaining that it will not officially begin operations until a formal separation policy is approved by the UMC. Theological Conservative United Methodists have made no secret of their efforts to form a new church, stated the WCA in the announcement. In late 2018, the Wesleyan Covenant Association created Next Steps Working Group to begin drafting its own book of doctrines and discipline, outlining essential theological confessions and governing structures for the new church's consideration. The creators of the GMC and other United Methodists are holding off further action until the result of the new church-wide legislative meeting known as the General Conference. That's the meeting that's going to happen in August the 29th through September the 6th, 2022. But again, it sounds like that no matter what they vote, the conservative side is still going to form their own denomination. All right? And it talks about the endless debate. It talks about dissent. It talks about a preliminary structure. And it talks about how many will leave. Again, we've got up to possibly 7,500 congregations possibly leaving. Some have 6,800. There's a lot of numbers, but a lot of congregations are going to leave. And then they throw in at the bottom that the progressive side have already moved to go away. So the bottom line is it's all falling apart, and the structure is not stopping it because the structure has no authority. Why? Because the authority is whatever, if a majority of the people say, well, we don't agree with you anymore, then they just either leave or, or just rebel. I mean, it looks like within the United Methodist Church, you've had rebellion where people just do what they want, or now breaking away, start another denomination. And that's what happens. So I'll go back to my original statement. What authority does a church actually have? What authority does a pastor actually have? What authority does a group of elders actually have? They can talk all day about the authority they have, but you know how much authority they have? They only have authority as long as one individual or a group of individuals allows them to have it. And they can walk away from it whenever they want. They can walk away. And if they get enough people together, they can remove elders and remove pastors, and they can destroy a whole church. Whole church can implode and fall apart. And we see it over and over and over again. So at some point, Christians really have to think, do they really believe that anyone in that church has authority, or do they really believe that they're the authority? Now, I know the church answer. No. My pastor has authority. I'm supposed to submit to him as my religious leader. Yeah, and then the second you don't like what he says or you disagree, then you just walk out the door and you just go wherever you want, or you just start another church. We've witnessed it a million times, and to play the game that's not the case is a lie. All right, so let's just keep that in mind. And so number 2, then back to my original point. You have to understand this. Whatever future apostasy that is coming, all right, however you understand it, you cannot forget this very important part of that coming apostasy. I believe the Bible says things are going to get worse and worse and worse, and that the church is going to get worse and worse and worse. And you're going to have a church that has a form of godliness but denies the power thereof. It's going to be filled with false doctrine, false teachers. It's going to be an absolute disaster. But I want you to see this, that coming apostasy. They're not going to walk away from Christianity. They're not going to walk away from your church and just renounce your church. Yes, we're going to see growing number of people doing that, but the apostates, the apostasy, the heretics are simply going to say, no, we've got Christianity right. All of you've got it wrong, and you're going to either be pushed out of your church or you're not going to feel welcomed at your church, and you're going to look around going, where is a good church? The majority of churches will become apostate. That, to me, is an element of the coming apostasy that we always forget. We always think it's going to be the bad people outside of the church. The church is going to become the enemy of historical biblical Christianity. They're going to call themselves a church. They're going to have a cross in the front. They're going to hold up a Bible. They're going to sing songs about Jesus. They're going to say they're praying to Jesus, praising Jesus, but they're going to be devoid of anything related to historical biblical Christianity. That is what you have to prepare for. Now, there you go. I hope that clarified everything. I didn't get to the email. I'm sorry. I got to get to the email. All right. I really apologize for that. I think that adds enough clarification, but I just want I want to show you why we did all of that. All right. Here's the email that I received. He says, 6 minutes into this one, it hits closer to home for me because I was a Methodist for 32 years prior to being saved, and having been Baptist the past 10 years, and have been Baptist past 10 years. My parents and siblings are still Methodist. So here's someone who was a Methodist for 32 years. He probably understands the inner working of all of what we just read far better than I have. I'm reading all of that and I don't have a clue what they're doing. All right. It just seems like how convoluted can the system be? All right. So he can have a better understanding. He goes, but at least the first 6 minutes into this, it sounds like it's being reported that conservatives are the ones saying we're leaving the church because of this divide. I've always understood it as they are being kicked out. Now, again, none of the reports I have seem to indicate they're being kicked out. In fact, it seems to indicate that the conservatives are saying no matter what the denomination votes, they're forming their own denomination. So even if there was any push to get them out, they're going now no matter what the vote is. That's the reports that I have that appears to be going on. It has come to a vote many times, gay marriage versus traditional values, and traditional values have always won the vote. A big reason for this is the Methodist Church in Africa, apparently a big presence, has always shown up and canceled out the votes from liberal Americans. So those who have pushed for gay clergy and gay marriage within the church have decided it's time for a split, and the conservatives can go and have their own denomination. The Methodists are moving on without them. All right? To me, that seems reverse of what it should be. The vote has never passed. Those who didn't get their way in the voting should be starting their own church. This new conservative denomination doesn't have a chance. It'll be labeled a hate church from the start. I say all of this without doing research today, but this is my recollection for what has happened pre-pandemic. Hopefully I'm able to finish the program later to see what I'm missing, but I'm being called into work now. Well, listen, here's number one. If your boss is calling you into work and I'm live on the air, you have every right to tell your boss no. In fact, you are commanded to tell your boss no, you cannot come to work. The Theology Central podcast is live on the air. In fact, it's probably written in the United States Constitution that you have a right not to listen to your boss when I'm talking. All right, no, okay, I'm joking. Now, here's the thing. From the reports, it sounds like that maybe, now I don't indicate it this way, but let's just infer that maybe there was some push for basically saying, hey, you conservatives, you're not happy with the way things are going, go ahead and form your own denomination. Maybe they were encouraged, maybe they were being forced, but the bottom line is it sounds like that no matter what the general council votes, they're going. They're going to do their own thing. And the ultra-liberal progressive, they've already broken away themselves. So it looks like you're going to have three. And I don't know, do these three, are they connected? I mean, why? If you're breaking away, why are you getting 20, how much money was it per year? Let me go back and find that number. I mean, if you're breaking away, why are you getting that money? Let's see, where is it? How much money are they going to get? See if we can find it here. If the article will load. And the article's not loading when I need it to load. Let me do something here. Give me 1 second. All right. I'm going to try to get it to reload here. I don't know why it's Christianity Today's website's having some kind of technical problems. Hopefully we're not losing internet connection here at the church, which is very common for that to happen. Here we go. All right. They are going to get, let's see here if we have it. 20, they're going to receive $25 million over the next 4 years. So they're going to receive $25 million. To me, why are you getting money? So that doesn't sound, if they're being forced out, and also being supported for 4 years. So I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. So I don't know if they're forced out or not forced out, but the bottom line is it just demonstrates that the structure, no matter how you look at it, you got liberals who are like, oh, we don't like this. So they just rebelled. And we're doing whatever they want. Now you got liberals like, you know what? We're not even waiting around. We're just going to go form our own progressive branch. And then if the conservatives are forced out, well, then that just means even in a denominational structure, they can just force you out if they want you forced out. The whole thing just demonstrates to me that anything can happen, and it doesn't matter what structure you have in place. All this talk that, oh, you got to have elder rule, you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to have this, you got to have that. Now, ultimately, people are going to do what they want. Leadership's going to do what they want. The church members are going to do what they want, and it just leads to chaos and problems. So I think we have to address that. And then ultimately, look, that's how it's going to work. As the apostasy comes, look, I think of it this way. This is something to consider. As we move forward to fulfillment of biblical prophecy about the coming apostasy, you're going to get more churches. I don't think you're going to get less churches. Now, those churches may not have as large a number of people attending as a lot of people just abandon Christianity, but you're just going to get more and more groups. More and more groups, house churches, small churches, independent churches, new denominations. You're just going to get more and more and more and more as people break away, and start their own. During at the time of the great falling away, the great apostasy, you're just going to have more churches, all claiming to be Christian, but just further and further removed from historical biblical Christianity. All right, there you have it. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was beneficial. You can let me know if it was by emailing me at newsif@yahoo.com, or as always, it's a brand new feature, so I can't say as always. As of a few days ago, you can go to theologycentral.net, just swipe up on the page. You'll see the little icon appear down at the bottom that has a microphone on it. It's a little circle with a microphone. Click on that microphone. You can leave us a voice memo about, well, whatever your feedback is on anything. All right, that makes it easy for you to communicate with us. All right, everyone have a great day. Hopefully that was beneficial. Thank you. God bless.